In this video, I'm going to share with you how to prevent cold fingers and cold toes while winter camping. This question was submitted by one of my viewers. Thank you very much. Hopefully you are a subscriber. But here's the question. It was from the video, how to choose between mittens and gloves in cold weather. This is by Ryan Arifin. Hopefully I didn't mangle your last name. Thank you very much for the question. He said, awesome video. If I understand the science correctly, your body takes blood flow away from your extremities, like toes and hands, when your core is cold. In your video, you talk about the most powerful hat in the universe, right here, to warm over other parts of your body so your fingers get continued circulation and you avoid the body's natural response of taking away circulation. Would the same strategy work for, say, wearing an extra upper layer to keep your core slightly warmer, to keep good circulation in your fingers? Boom, question. Thank you very much, Ryan, for the question. So let's answer that, because that is a very good point about can you really keep your core warmer or cooler? And interestingly, not really. So here's the cheat about it. In my book, I wrote this book with Dr. Terry Williams. He is a medical doctor, and he has 30 plus years of experience in the ER. He has literally seen everything, including an incredible story I'll tell at the end. It was just mind-blowing. But let me read the exact science from a medical doctor, a real legit doctor, not the one that plays doctor on TV, about cold. So the whole core temperature thing here is we generate our heat through metabolism of food and the metabolic activity of our tissues, and we can mount increased heat generation through increased muscular activity. We conserve heat through a series of complex complex systems that is controlled by the hypothalamus up in your head in our brain, which primarily involves the skin and vascular systems, which preferentially shunts blood flow away from our peripheral extremities, fingers and toes, where more heat can be lost, and towards our central organs for life. Now, that's great, but what does it come down to? He actually wrote, the systems of heat generation and conservation operate within a very narrow range. The normal diurnal variation in our body temperature is only 1 degree Celsius or 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can't, at most you can increase your temperature about 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit or 1 degree Celsius. So what am I talking about? Like, hey, I put on the most powerful hat in the universe and I can actually make my fingers warmer. Okay, so here's the trick, and I talk about this in our book, Adventure Expedition 1, links in the description, and I use this technique in Antarctica. If you want to read about Antarctic tears, let me tell you. I also do have a book, How to Keep Your Feet Warm in the Cold, that talks about these very issues, including people who struggle with Raynaud's disease. Keeping your feet warm in the cold, and by extension your fingers, is a big, big deal. But I was super cold. I was sick in Antarctica. I had a lung infection. I was in trouble. And I'm skiing along, and I've got my mittens on. I am dying. My fingers are cold. I've got my liner gloves on, and I am not feeling good. So what happened was, what happened was I was starting to feel sick. I was fatigued. I was starting to fall apart. My body temperature only dropped the slightest bit, but what that does is that causes the brain to say, panic mode 1, save the core, screw the fingers and the toes, it's okay. However, I have all my fingers and now my toes still, and what I did is I learned this technique, a couple different techniques. One was from the Greenlandic Serious Arctic Patrol. What these guys do is when they're doing their patrol, when they're going on their dog sleds and protecting Greenland, craziest thing ever, is when you have your mitten on, I'll explain this, is if your fingers are starting to get cold, immediately start pushing and cranking on your arms like this, because what will happen is a centrifugal force will actually start to drive blood back into your fingers. Now this is really hard with your toes. You can kind of swing, your legs, but when you've got on a double mountaineering boot, it's super hard. So what you do is kick the ground as hard as you can without injuring yourself, and that can make a big, big difference. Now, this technique I learned literally from a Tibetan Nepalese monk. People always say, oh, I learned this from a monk. I actually did. I'm not making this up. I read about it, did not talk to the monk, read about that technique. But what this technique involves, this is advanced. Do not do this as your regular plan. You can die. Not because you're going to overheat, but because you will freeze if you're relying on this, is envision tubes sticking out of your body. It's a Nepalese thing. I don't totally get it. And imagine, just start concentrating on a fire in your core. Envision this. I'm literally skiing in Antarctica, freezing my keister off, and I'm envisioning a fire, like a bonfire, in my core with flames shooting out these tubes out of the core of my body. And as I'm going along and I'm trying to throw my arms and kick the ground while still skiing and moving forward, I started to warm up. It worked really, really well. Envisioning that heat coming out of my body and emanating completely worked. However, it took over an hour or so, I can't exactly remember, it was like 45 minutes to an hour, for this to kick in. But once it kicked in, woo, all of a sudden I felt this flush of heat go up into my head. I'm like, whoa, my fingers started to get warm. Now, I have practiced this technique a lot, and it's like the Wim Hof method. Be mindful, you could literally die if you do these things. But the safer thing, instead of doing my crazy method, okay, you're in the cold and it's cold. Well, put another layer on, cover your neck. If you cover your neck, it will make a big difference. Hang on for the toes, and it's still cold, put on another hat. Put on, oh, you've got another buff? Oh, okay, it's cold. You put on another buff. You do this, and this is what I did on Kilimanjaro, because you gotta hike so freaking slow, is I put on another hat, and then I put on another hat, and then I don't think I'm going to be able to get this on. I was literally put on another Arctic buff. I'm choking out here, but it totally works. I got this hat on. I've got my balaclava on. This is just the buildup of like, holy cow, I'm still freezing. I start building this up, and then I put the most powerful hat in the universe on. Whew, fingers are still cold. Come on. Okay. Oh yeah, forgot my little headband here. I get my headband in there, jam the thing on. Oh, I'm starting to get hot. Whoo! And then I get my shell jacket on. And what happens is I am literally starting to sweat right now. And I keep doing this. And what happens is you can basically fake out your hypothalamus, even though people say you don't. I've experienced it, so I'm literally standing here as living proof. And I start loading up, and what the goal is I'm trying to literally overheat my core and make my brain think that I'm so hot that my fingers and my toes are not at risk. And I've had this happen where I'm going along, I'm super cold, and all of a sudden I get this flush where I get this kick over. I start sweating in my hat, I start sweating in my gloves, and I can feel my fingers, like the vascular system literally opens up, and I can feel heat running through my fingers to the tips of my fingers and my toes. It was awesome. I'm like, oh, thank you. And now I'm skiing and I'm hiking and climbing. I'm doing okay. I am literally overheating. I am sweating, but I can reactivate my fingers. It is a huge difference. Check out the video below of my video of how to survive falling in a river in the winter and how to dry off doing it. If you want to see what hypothermia does in 3 minutes of falling into a river, I did it. I induced hypothermia, but I can't even speak. It was incredible. And I show you how to dry off. And now, I'm going to tell you the story that Dr. Williams wrote. He said that he had a boy who was involved in a plane crash, and he was the only survivor in the winter, and he was stuck there for literally days. This story is in Adventure Expedition 1. This boy was literally stuck in the snow from the plane crash for days, and his legs froze, like up to mid-thigh. He had hypothermic reactions and frostbite. His legs were solid and wooden. With professional help, Dr. Dr. Williams was literally able to recover that boy. So instead of having to hack his leg off of his thighs, he only lost down to his mid-foot. Now, I know that's only, but he could have lost his entire legs. So if this happens to you, and you develop frostbite, and you go into a medical facility in a country you're not familiar with, and they say, oh, you've got frostbite, we'll just chop off your fingers or toes. Don't do it. Unless you have gangrene, do not let them cut that extremity off, because oftentimes it can take up to 6 months for your body to reconstitute whatever it can, and you'd be amazed how little you're going to lose if you have this happen. Hopefully this video has been helpful. Check out links below in the description to my books, Antarctic Tears, Lost at Windy Corner, Adventure Expedition 1, How to Keep Your Feet Warm in the Cold, the Jackson Hole Hiking Guide, The Most Crucial Knots to Know, the 2024 Total Eclipse Guides, as well as my shows, Antarctic Tears and Lost at Windy Corner. Again, check out Adventure Expedition 1 and Antarctic Tears. This is how to do it. This is what I did, and you will learn a lot. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and comment on the video and subscribe to the channel so you too can stay warm and stay liquid.